on your head.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with this.
Hey, this is Naked at Night with Lance and Rick and JD and Mark and Channing. So here's the deal. For 7-8 years, Lance and I have been yelling at each other about politics, and I finally shut it down. It was making everybody miserable. In the words of Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon, we're too old for this shit. So we're going to try to have a more fun production. And for the first time, we managed to wrangle a model here for Lance to draw. Instead of frickin' me, we have Channing. So let's start with string theory instead of politics. So Lance was listening to some frickin' conservative podcast with some guy named Eric or Brett Weinstein, who's both a conservative guy and a science guy, bitching about string theory, which has been one of the dominant theories in physics for the past, 30, 40 years. And Weinstein was saying, well, string theory has been kind of a waste of time and has maybe distracted people from a more productive use of their time. And I don't know a ton about the very advanced math behind it, but I kind of agree with that, in that string theory is a bunch of theories all in a package, and a theory's no good if it doesn't make definitive predictions. And string theory is so is it.
I just want your face.
All right, string theory is so loose as a theory that it might predict 100 different outcomes for any kind of physics situation. Again, I'm an idiot about string theory, and I don't know for sure. But string theory is based on the idea that the fundamental particles of the universe are not particles, but are actually vibrating strings that are vibrating in multiple other dimensions beyond just our 3 dimensions. And I have a problem with that, which is, everybody thinks we get 3 dimensions for free. That's the space we live in. We live in space, and it seems like, okay, it's a nice place. We didn't have to pay for it. But when you start bringing in other dimensions, to the dimensions these little strings can vibrate in, somebody has to build that space. You need information to specify those extra dimensions. Where do you get that information? The universe defines itself by interacting with itself. That's pretty much quantum mechanics. But now you have these extra dimensions. Does the universe have enough information to define all these extra dimensions? Let me give you an example. If you live in 2 dimensions and you want to build a house, you build a square, it takes 4 popsicle sticks you glue together. If you live in 3 dimensions, that takes 12 popsicle sticks to build a cube. If you want to build a 4-dimensional cube, it takes 32 popsicle sticks. 5-dimensional cube takes 80. 6-dimensional, it takes 192 popsicle sticks. That's a lot more construction and information. Where are you getting it from? So I don't love it. All right, now let's move on to something else where somebody else can say something. Lance, we weren't going to talk much about politics, but for 14 or so years, I worked for Jimmy Kimmel. And Kimmel is right in the middle of the news and politics. So I'm going to try to explain what I think happened with Kimmel, and then Lance, even though Kimmel hired him once at least, maybe twice, is going to have some conservative perspective on Kimmel. Right, Lance?
Yes.
Do you want to start it off and I'll tell you where I think you're wrong?
No, I think you should start because I'm getting into the drawing. Your cell phone's going to melt the chocolate.
Oh, okay, all right. So what happened is, as far as I know, on Monday night, Kimmel did his usual monologue in which he addressed a couple topics pertaining to the senseless murder assassination of Charlie Kirk. Kimmel, had, previous to that, had tweeted his sympathy and tweeted that he deplored the murder of Kirk and felt, extended his sympathy to the surviving members of his family. In the opening monologue, Kimmel said that since the assassination, which happened Thursday or Friday of the previous week, MAGA spokespeople had worked hard to distance MAGAs from any responsibility for the murder. And then he showed a clip of Trump being asked by a reporter, "How do you feel, Mr. President? How are you doing after the assassination of your friend, Charlie Kirk?" And Trump said, "I'm doing fine, and this is where we're going to build my big new ballroom." And Kimmel ran that as a clip that was kind of funny that Trump would move so abruptly from talking about Charlie Kirk to talking about his ballroom. Then by Wednesday, a conservative outrage over Kimmel's comments and mostly his comments, and I'll explain why in a second, had grown to the point where the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, said that maybe affiliates should put pressure on Disney to discipline Kimmel. And ABC owns 8 stations, but they have 225 local affiliates, local news. Well, when you turn on the local news, that's a local broadcaster. And so there are 225 of them. 32 of them mutinied and said if they kept Kimmel on the air, said they weren't going to show Kimmel. And then another chain of 32 affiliates, Nexstar, also said they weren't going to show Kimmel because they were so mad at his comments. And then that prompted ABC to suspend Kimmel indefinitely. And since then, negotiations have been going on. Nobody's speaking. Nobody from Kimmel, nobody from ABC, nobody from Nexstar, nobody from Sinclair. Because I think everybody's negotiating and trying to come up with a compromise that gets Kimmel back on the air, and nobody wants to screw it up. And that's mostly where it stands now on Sunday evening. Lance?
Okay, well, we have this rule now that I have to time my things so that Rick won't interrupt me. Somebody should run one time. All right, so I'm going to take 4 minutes. Okay. Well, typically, Rick's been fed a pack of lies by his media.
But wait, one thing before you start, because I worked for Kimmel on 3 different shows for 14 years, and I've been spending like 5 hours a day tracking this story. So I think I know a ton about it.
That's even worse, because you left out the most important.
I was going to get to it, or I thought you would get to
Well,
it.
I'm going to right now, if you'll just shut your pie hole.
Okay.
We have to debate it in a very civilized way. All right, so here's the situation. I did work for Kimmel. I liked working for him. He's probably a reasonable person in a lot of ways, but he got up there and he did 2 very bad things. He got up there and he said his first sentence, which was that the MAGA supporters are trying to distance themselves from the shooter when we know that he was one of their own. Well, after a major leader of my movement is assassinated, you don't get on the TV and say to hundreds of thousands of people that the shooter was a Trump supporter, especially when you know that's a damn lie. We already know that he was a Democrat and that he killed Charlie Kirk uh, because he's not. So it's not just irresponsible. The Democrats don't seem to understand this. Charlie Kirk was one of our best people, one of our most important people, and he was killed by a Democrat for his beliefs. We know this because he told us. And Jimmy Kimmel knew that at the time. He actually put on his bullets woke phrases like "take this, fascist," and he's living with a transvestite who he claims he killed Charlie Kirk for. So, and his parents say he's a leftist, and he's got leftist comments all over to his friends and the internet. So yes, he's a Democrat, and to say that Trump supporters killed Charlie Kirk is the worst possible propaganda that you could spread at a time when possibly the worst assassination since Martin Luther King would have happened. Because right now, the country needs truth. And we are verging on civil unrest right now. And the Democrats have decided they're going to take out the president. They're going to take out our main young leader. They killed the Speaker of the House. They crippled the Speaker of the House a few years ago, who was a Republican. And if they keep this up, we could end up in civil war. So no, you don't get up there and say, yeah, MAGA supporter, top guy was killed by a MAGA supporter. You don't lie about that. And I'm not finished.
All right, but you
I
said
am not
you had
finished.
two things. What's the second thing? What's the second thing?
The second thing is, he took that clip totally out of context. It painted Trump as a monster. I watched Trump give 5 speeches before that, completely devoted to how grief-stricken and destroyed he was by this death, that he felt like the guy was a son to him. And then the one time after days and days of this that he's kind of tired of talking about it, and we got to move on a little bit and say, look, look at what we're building here. Isn't that great? The one time is the clip that Kimmel takes out of context and puts up there for his funny joke. Well, it's not a funny joke. It makes Trump look like he's a monster. And both actions are the last thing we need at this time. And if a guy is going to get a license from the FCC to get up there and create civil war, I'm sorry, he doesn't get away with that. There have to be consequences.
All right, so let me explain what I think happened. So I didn't see a bunch of other footage or much other footage of Trump. I didn't see all the clips you saw of Trump.
Well, that's a surprise.
All right. But with regard to what Kimmel said that MAGA spent the weekend, that is, the assassination happens on Thursday or Friday, trying to distance themselves from the idea that the shooter was one of their own. Now, that is what happened over the weekend. However, by Monday, I still don't think so. The first information to come out of this about the shooter, once he was identified, was that he came from a MAGA family, conservative family. And I don't think by the time the show taped on Monday that we had the emails and the information that the shooter was likely in a relationship with a trans person, and perhaps had a motive that was related to Charlie Kirk's anti-trans stances. So Kimmel says this, and yeah, what he says implies that the shooter might be MAGA. He never says it definitively, but he certainly implies it. And he makes the comments, and there's no uproar by taping on Tuesday. Some people, conservatives, were annoyed at the way he phrased it, at his comments, probably at the clip, but they're always annoyed when Kimmel does anti-Trump stuff. So there was no uproar. But by Tuesday evening, uproar was, and Wednesday morning, uproar was starting to go crazy, because while there was no uproar in the first 24 hours, the New York Times did a story on how a dozen major MAGA influencers, including Elon Musk, were starting to generate outrage against Kimmel's comments. So by Wednesday, Kimmel sees that he has to respond to the outrage by addressing what he said on Monday. And he and his writers write their monologue according to reports. I don't have any inside information. And they show it to ABC, and Kimmel doesn't apologize for his comments on Monday in his Wednesday monologue. He doesn't think he has to apologize because he thinks he's correct in saying that MAGA spent the weekend distancing themselves from the idea that the shooter was MAGA. And that is what Republicans and MAGA do. They're really good at messaging. They get out there in front. Democrats are bad at messaging. They lay back and they let Republicans get in there with their messaging, and flood the zone. So Kimmel's like, that is what happened, that there was a lot of MAGA commentary over the weekend. And so he was going to clarify his comments, but ABC looked at his monologue and said, this is just going to piss people off more, so we have to suspend you. So that's what I think the situation is. The FCC guy had already said, that if you're pissed at Kimmel, that maybe the affiliates need to put pressure on ABC to, not let Kimmel get away with this.
I have something to say.
Go ahead.
If all the late night guys, there's many of them that have shows, and they're all on those same networks, don't they usually play and tug and make fun of the system but also agree with the system? Aren't they usually kind of in the middle with those philosophies? And it's like Saturday Night Live, where they make big jokes about the president or current events. Because this one is a sensitive matter, because someone did get assassinated or murdered, it's obviously a little different from any other late night show that makes fun of the president or Republicans or Democrats. So because this one's a sensitive matter, he got in trouble. But usually, doesn't his show usually tug and pull and kind of pick on political events and said topics?
You're right, except things have changed in the last couple.
This is a sensitive one. And
So-
this election is even more sensitive, I think, because who is president and what's going on in
Right.
the world with the war and everything.
You're right, except things have changed in the last few years. So back when Leno, are you old enough to have watched Leno at all?
Yeah, I'm almost 40.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
All right, well,
I've been
congratulations, you've got excellent genes. So
Thanks.
people used to say that you couldn't tell from his monologue or any comments Leno made on the show who he voted for, whether he votes Republican or Democrat. And that used to be how all the shows were.
More
Though
neutral.
SNL tended to lean liberal. All the shows maybe leaned a little liberal, but they tried to play it right as close to the middle as they could because they didn't want to lose half their audience.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been changing, partly maybe because of the politics of the hosts, but partly because Trump is such a huge presence in the world. So you had no drama Obama. Obama played it cool, which made it hard to find hooks that you could make fun of. And often they were little hooks, like that he wore mom jeans, that he ordered Dijon mustard, which is a French mustard, that he wore a tan suit, that Michelle Obama had man arms. These are all trivial frickin' things that didn't lead to very satisfying comedy. And then you had Biden, who kind of hid in the White House for 3 years because he's always had a stutter, and maybe his speaking skills had deteriorated some, so you didn't see a lot of him. But you see Trump every day, often saying things that are radical or that libs find outrageous. Or like the time there was an eclipse and everybody gets told not to look at an eclipse. Trump gets caught on camera defiantly staring right at an eclipse. And it was like a crazy moment of defiance of science and the sun. And you had to make comedy out of it. And so for the past, ever since Trump announced for president in 2015, he's occupied a huge chunk of comedy real estate, which is bad for comedy because you don't want to have to tell jokes about the same subject for 10 years in a row. So there's been a shift where, Trump says a bunch of, he's big, he's brash, and so the shows joke about him. Sometimes the shows get, like Jimmy got upset about a couple things that made people think he was woke. He grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. And a few years ago, a maniac used an AR-15 to shoot 500 people from a high floor of a hotel and kill 50 of those people. And Jimmy got on the air and he cried and he said, we have to do something about this. And that, some people think, including probably Lance, that was the beginning of his wokeness. But there has been a shift where eventually all the late night hosts did so much comedy about Trump that they lost all the MAGAs. And that's where we are now.
Well, the only thing I want to say, and it's vitally important, is that by the time Kimmel got up there, I, who don't have a production staff, and am an individual artist in living in the ghetto, I knew the political beliefs of the shooter were not MAGA. There were articles all over the internet, and there was credible reports. So if I knew, then Jimmy Kimmel knew. If he didn't know, that's hard to believe. But basically, once a guy gets killed in front of hundreds of thousands of people by having his neck blown off, maybe you keep your goddamn mouth shut for a few days, whether you know or not. And the fact, I believe he did know, and even if he didn't, by now, he should have apologized. He should have said, Jesus, I accused the wrong people of something, of one of the darkest moments in modern history. I accused the Trump supporters of doing this, and that was the wrong thing to do. Well, I should apologize to them for doing that because it was done by my side, the left-wing Democrats. We are the ones that killed Charlie Kirk.
All right, so the assassination happened like 9 days ago, and I don't think the shooter is talking to the cops.
No, I already knew.
But hold on.
There were reports from his friends. There were.
All right, but
they had the bullets with the writing on them.
Right, but
we knew he was living with a transgender.
All right, but
and that Charlie Kirk was anti-transgender, and
his
parents were.
So let me talk about that. So the show tapes at around 5 p.m. So did he know at 5 p.m. on Monday? Also, the things.
If I knew, he should have known.
Yeah, but did you know by 5 p.m.
Yes,
on Monday?
I knew. It was like the only people that didn't know were left-wing Democrats.
But no, the deal is that the investigation, even though they have the shooter and it's pretty much definitive that he's the shooter, his motives are not yet entirely. Hold on. So because the stuff he'd etched into the bullets were gaming community graffiti. which is they're not left-wing graffiti as much as it's graffiti from the gaming community, which I've read, and I don't know that much about that. That is a mix of right and left. And yeah, I'm guessing it'll be substantiated that it was anti-trans from Charlie Kirk that pissed off the shooter, but we don't know yet.
Yeah, well, then that's the problem, Rick. That's exactly why we're having this argument.
All right, okay, but
that's the reason we're having this argument, because Jimmy Kimmel wants left-wing Democrats to think that we don't know and that it was probably Trump supporters. That's the problem. You are making my argument. It's the most obvious thing in the world.
All right.
If Kamala Harris was killed, God forbid, I wouldn't automatically assume it was probably a Democrat.
So, all right, so here's the deal.
I think it's crazy that both sides are blaming each other. When it first happened, my friend was in town. I remember hearing about it because I don't really watch the news a lot. I'm a healer. I try to stay out of
which is a good idea.
A lot of things. I'm an artist, a creative, a healer, and a lot of it's really heavy for me. And I have my beliefs and I know where I stand, but I'm in the middle because I have been both parties with different times in my life. And the whole understanding when it first started hitting articles, and maybe my phone is biased, perhaps, I don't know, because the media is different no matter where you live, from Georgia to here to Colorado to wherever the hell you're from. And when I started, my friend is a very anti-Trump, I wouldn't say Democratic, but there's a lot of people that lay in the middle and are Green supporters or whoever they are, and they don't care for that party. And he was talking about a little ill of the guy that got murdered. And I was listening to his opinion, but I wanted to read my own research because I like to be my own advocate of information and read what people are saying and form my own opinion. Because you should question everything and you shouldn't just listen to what people are telling you or what you're hearing. And when I read 2 of the articles, because it was right after the murder, it was literally the next day when no information was out, that's what the articles were saying, is what Kimmel was saying. Because that was the information. The 3 articles I read was saying that it was some of their own people that did it. And I was like, how can we blame anyone in this point without investigation or even knowing? That was before they caught the killer.
It's too early.
That was before they caught the killer. So what I see is both parties trying to find a corporate or blaming someone before we even know any information about anything about who did it. They hadn't even found the guy yet who murdered him, and they were blaming. That was what people were saying. So it's kind of like one of those sensitive scenarios.
Right. So I think
that information was already being fed to the people.
So Lance, are you okay with moving on? I think that's a good place. Okay. All right. So what are we going to do?
I think Mark should come up next.
Are we at Mark's time?
Would you like
Hi,
to do
Mark.
that?
Oh, I'm okay. You're so kind. Thank you.
All right.
Mark, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. I said we're in Mark's time, but I've also got Scott here as well. If you want me to bring Scott in, or I can bring him on the next segment and everything like that, or y'all can bring him on. But I did have a question, and it's actually a question that our model can answer, but you can answer it as well. Definitely Lance and definitely Rick as well. I actually had a conversation today earlier with a friend of mine. Unfortunately, the friend lost their sister and everything like that recently, so their older sister. But they were talking about, because I did hear our model say that she is a healer, and they were talking about the energy of the world and everything like that. So they were telling me that we're in a Virgo season, and I think we've had 2 moons that have been in the Virgo season that are about to be ending and all along those lines and everything like that. So they were talking about that Virgo season ending and us coming to some eclipses and some other stuff. And they were saying that this is some very troubling times for our world and everything like that. So I guess my question for you, young lady, is what is your take on astrology, and is astrology a real thing, and are you a believer in this whole energy concept? Because I was talking to my friend Angel Dozier, and she was just talking about some very dark times. Of course, she did have a loss in her family.
Oh, absolutely. I try to be, I love astrology and I do follow it. I also try to be very scientific and practical. Tonight is a very powerful night for a lot of people that do believe in that woke or woo-woo or astrology. Tonight is September 21st, which is, of course, a solstice for the fall, an equinox, actually, for the fall. And so it's a very powerful time in a lot of different, spiritual belief systems. But yes, tonight is the new moon in Virgo.
Right.
So a lot of people find new moon and full moon very powerful times, but it's also a solar eclipse. And a couple of weeks ago on the 7th was a lunar eclipse.
Right.
So people that believe in these things or follow this kind of, planetary powerfulness with the moon, with the stars, with the planets, the energy has been intense between the 7th and the 21st, being that it's a lunar eclipse and then tonight is the solar eclipse. A lot of historian events happen in these times between a lunar and a solar. In history, if you take these dates and go back, major wars, major arguments, major things and events with, I think, civil wars, with major wars, World War II. There's some linkage with this date in history and the solar eclipse with some stuff in the past. So a lot of people do blame the energetic force field on the universe right now and what's going on with our planets and our sun and our moons.
Can I, on a personal basis, this is the time of year when every time I've really screwed up my life, that's when it would start. The days get shorter. I grew up in Colorado. The sun would, we're up against the mountains. The sun would start going down at 4 in the afternoon. I'd get all bummed out. I'd quit doing homework, and I would end up flunking all my classes by, the end of October. I was cooked. All right, one more. So is the energy of the whole world bad? And what do we do to fix it?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the eye of the beholder, I think.
Okay.
Right now, the whole world is really energetically put off. You have major people fighting, not just in America, but all over the world. So I think, the energy as a whole collective is very, hurting right now, as far as people are scared. People are living in fear. People don't know what's going to happen next. And people are listening and watching the news, and they're in awe, or they're freaked out. So as a collective, if you do believe in oneness and people as a whole, it's interesting and difficult times for a lot of people. So I think people would be on the edge, especially if they watch the news a lot, or if they are current in the current events that's going on. You would have to live under a rock to not feel a little anxious or, moved some way negative or positively by everything that's going on.
See, we got the music getting ready to come on the stage. Just really quick, Lance and everything. And Rick, don't go anywhere. But just out of curiosity, what is everybody's sign? Because I know that I am a Cancer. Probably something rising. I don't know that, but I know that I am a Cancer. So I'm just curious, everybody's sign, including our musician and everything. So I'll start with you, Rick. Rick, what is your
Taurus?
Taurus. What about you, Miss Model Lady?
Oh, I'm a Pisces.
A fellow water sign. And what about you, And by the way, the lady that I was talking about, she's a Pisces as well. Because
Lance.
and y'all have a lot of that same conversation. Lance, what are you?
Capricorn.
Capricorn. They
JD.
can't be opposite of the water signs.
So,
Cancer's opposite, I should say. What did you say, JD?
I'm a Gemini.
all right.
Oh yeah, those Geminis. They're trouble.
Are you a Cameron?
Balabalando al sol, bala mi corazón. Balabalando al sol, curando mi dolor de amor. But dance the dance, healing sun, dance in my heart. Dance, oh dance, healing sun, let the medicine start in my heart, soul, spirit. Oh, bus and me, bus and me. Peace with me, peace with me, bus, bus. Ven y Santa Espírita, ven y Santa Espírita. Balando el sol, bala mi corazón. Dance, oh dance, healing sun, let the medicine start in my heart, soul, spirit. It's an original song. Thank you so much. In the spirit of the solar eclipse, the song that I composed most recently, and welcoming Shani to our show. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Mark. And I'm JD. Stay tuned for our next episode. Bam!
Whether you're a seasoned designer, dabbler, or just starting out, this course is for you.
There are moments in life we wish we could freeze in time. We live them. We live for them. They are intimately personal. They are gladly shared. What is life if we cannot experience these moments of joy, wonder, and happiness? We want people to experience more of life's precious moments. To do that, we must be healthy in heart and mind. For the heart is where life's moments are felt most, and the mind is where these moments become memories and are relived again and again. It's why we've made better heart and brain health our mission, and together we've made an extraordinary impact. Healthier adults, more active children, stronger survivors. But we are just beginning. Until there's a world free of heart disease and stroke, we'll be there, making a healthier, longer life possible for everyone. You may ask, why do we do what we do? The answer is simple. Because we are the American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association. And life is why.
My advice to women seeking leadership roles in technology is to be confident.
I would recommend to speak up.
I think it's really important as you pursue a role in technology to have unshakable optimism.
I can't stress enough the value of mentorship.
When I think about any large career move, I ground it in 3 pillars, and that is purpose, potential, and people.
Use your voice, raise your hand, and be confident in your own ability.
Just speak up. Say what you feel, say what you think. Don't be intimidated by men around the table or other people more senior than you.
Enjoy solving problems. Each and every single day, depending who you're working with, you need to be able to enjoy that process.
Find females who will support you and share their experience as to how they navigated the tech industry and how they're currently navigating the tech industry. Your voice matters, your opinion matters, and you're there for a reason, so use that.
And when you have a clear sense of purpose and a clear sense of why, not only does it help you go through your crucible moments, it actually inspires your team to rally around you.
Be an FIO person, which just means figure it out. You may not know, but find a way and get it done.
Women tend to be less likely to apply for promotions, to speak up in meetings, or apply for new roles if they don't feel like they have all of the skills required to be successful. The fact of the matter is, seldom does anyone, so why couldn't that opportunity be yours?
Well, she's breaking, so hope she comes back.
Okay, we're back.
All right, Naked at Night. Lance, Rick, JD, Mark, and Channing, and Scott, right? Is Scott checking in here? Is he, Scott here for
Scott is in.
all right, for Canadian Corner. All right,
Scott, you're muted.
all right, so, religion.
Wait, hold on, Scott's muted.
All right, unmute.
Unmute yourself, Scott.
Hi, hello from Canada.
All right, so here's what I want everybody to talk about, if nobody minds. So religion has been huge in the past couple weeks. Charlie Kirk, the murdered guy, was very religious. MAGA is obviously super Christian. Kimmel and Colbert are good Catholics. Colbert has taught Sunday school. Fallon was raised Catholic, but is no longer a regular churchgoer. JD, our director and musician, was a church choir director, still very Catholic. I'm, Jewish by birth, not super religious, but I collect Catholic art. Channing, you're very spiritual. And Lance, you include divine messaging in your paintings, right? Mystical, divine.
Yes, I do.
So here we are with a bunch of, we're deep into the era of science, but we're all of us deeply entangled with religion. So Scott, what does that tell you? Canadian Corner?
It says a lot about human psychology more than veracity. It tells us that people have certain needs, and that can be decoupled from necessary truth value. It may be true, obviously. I don't necessarily know, but fundamentally, it's about people's needs. And I think we're primarily sort of emotional and instinctive creatures as opposed to intellectual.
So I
Thinking,
agree with
yeah.
that. You know, I collect mosaics, and I have a giant Jesus on the cross mosaic that I'm restoring in my office, and I doubly don't believe in Jesus because A, I'm Jewish, and B, I'm pretty sciency, but I still talk to frickin' Jesus, not infrequently. I'm like, dude, I do not believe in you, but if you could possibly swing it, could you rapture some of the most obnoxious people like to someplace else so they can quit like, getting everybody worked up? Lance, Channing, JD,
Okay,
Scott.
I'll start. I don't know what the question is, if there's a question.
We're just talking about
But,
how does religion work now in this?
I think that there will always be religion because I believe in God, and I think that the older I get, the more I believe in God, and that it really doesn't matter what we do down here because I think that there is no scientific discovery that's going to disprove God. And the reason that he's relevant to people is because he exists. And not only that, but I think that it gives the whole universe meaning, which is very important to human beings. So yeah, there is a psychological element, but it's a natural part of life, and I think it's kind of, in a way, it's very short-sighted to say that because we began to have scientific discoveries that there's no God. Certainly philosophically, you can't disprove the existence of God with an argument, and you can't even prove that very much from science. For example, scientists can't prove how the universe came from nothing. So we're spiritual creatures, and we get spiritual answers in a spiritual world. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
All right, I don't think you need to prove that the universe came from nothing. I think the principles of existence they're tight, but they're loose enough to allow stuff to exist. And that doesn't necessarily imply that everything needs to start from nothing. Scott?
That's a much longer conversation than we have in one episode.
All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was Georges Lemaitre who basically showed that, like, made the argument for the fact that the Big Bang happened. So it's credit where credit's due. It's also important to note that a lot of the Nobel Prizes are Christian. Disproportionate number per capita are of Jewish heritage. And so there's certainly a lot of scientific discovery and advance that can be derived, regardless of one's religious background or not, to an origin in the universe. I know there's, I believe, the Kalam cosmological argument that William Lane Craig likes to posit a lot. He actually took that from a lot of Islamic caliphate arguments that may have derived earlier from their translations from Greek and Latin, from Aristotle's first form argument. So basically there being an ultimate form as opposed to a first cause. So, I mean, this theological arguments with metaphysical import there, but in terms of this modern science, to Lance's point, doesn't necessarily just through the concept of a God. However, it sets a grid on the possible or the plausible. And so the more we know from sort of a scientific frame, from an empirical frame, the greater limits we have on the set of possibilities, and the stronger probabilities we have on a set of possibilities, right? So I don't know if there's a necessary argument. I mean, for instance, okay, let's say there's an origin point at t0. Well, I know Roger Penrose has posited like a cyclic universe where it inflates, collapses over some ungodly period of time, eternally. There's an infinite number of time and an infinite number of Big Bangs. I mean, your sort of style of informational cosmology has sort of a rolling, slow boil set of Big Bangs.
Let's talk about Frank Tipler. There's a guy, Tipler, who wrote one of the most widely used physics textbooks, is a Christian, and thinks that no souls are lost and that everyone will live again as the Big Bang universe runs out of gas and starts turning into a big collapse universe and running backwards, including time running backwards, so that everybody is resurrected, which, you know, that shows how it's possible to be deeply Christian and still like a big time physicist. All right, let's move on to story time. Now, Channing, how do you feel about Stephen King?
I think he's a brilliant writer.
And you've read him and you're okay with him?
Yeah, I
Okay.
like scary stuff.
All right,
The
so here-
movies are great, and
All right.
his books are even better.
All right, so for 48 years, this is a sad thing about me. I've been working on a book, a novel. It didn't start as a novel, but now it's a novel. And I'm finally getting to the point where maybe I can try to get it published. And like 11 years ago, I had a book deal for like 4 days before the publisher pulled back. So anyway, I am going, for the first time ever, I am going to start reading my novel, which is called Banjo. And this is chapter 1, The Guy. Star Garden closed that night at 12:30 when we were down to 2 customers stewing in their funk of beta loser bad hygiene. Crystal, who that night had been Ludwig von Titties, was gathering her stuff and tipping out the staff. I was outside pissing on the wall beside the back exit. The bouncers were inside getting their tips. A guy wearing an N95 mask darted around the dumpster and jabbed me in the belly with a handheld stun gun. I tried to skitter away, but my whole body was spasming. He pinned me to the asphalt with the taser, continuing to zap me, stopping just long enough to slip a choke collar over my head. The collar was attached to a leash. More zapping as he dragged me along the back of the building and onto the passenger seat of his car. He wrapped the leash around the gear shift lever, slammed the passenger door. He got in the driver's seat and drove maybe 2 blocks away from streetlights. Damn it, 30 seconds earlier, I'd been pissing without a care. More zaps. My heart was unsteady as fuck. I whined a little. I didn't want to die. He stopped the car, unwound the leash, rolled and shoved me into a nylon bag of the floor of the passenger seat and zipped up the bag. It smelled like old lady. I lay still, willing my heart to beat steadily. We drove straight and fast and then more slowly uphill along curves. Light dimly filtered into the bag. "Hey fella, who's a good fella?" said the guy. He poked me. I whimpered. "Almost there," he said. We stopped. He turned off the engine. An automatic garage door closed. He opened the passenger door and patted the bag. "Hey buddy," he said. I whimpered. No point in trying to be a tough guy. I was zipped up and zapped out. He carried me limp, still bagged, up a couple of stairs and lay me on the floor. The house smelled dirty, unwashed dishes, stale bedding, dust, beer, jizz socks. The guy smelled of fear and dick-brained excitement with notes of loneliness and of submission, a stronger version of the scent signatures of the guys who came into the club and drank alone. He unzipped the bag just enough to expose my head and upper body. My tongue flopped out of my gaping mouth. I rolled up my eyes so mostly white showed, playing nearly dead. Now was the time to bite the shit out of him, but more zaps from the stun gun, more spasms. Okay? You're okay, he said. He put a shoulder harness on me, the kind with straps that run in front of, in back of, and between your front legs and attach at the back. It was for a smaller dog. He padlocked it to the leash and hung the leash on a wall hook. Another zap. He pulled off the choke collar and pulled the bag off of me. He was organized. I thumped my tail a couple of times on the carpet. Good boy, he said. You're not so smart, he said. Zap, zap, oblivion. I woke just after sunrise, vision jangly at the edges, nauseous aftertaste of copper and strawberries. The guy, I assumed, was asleep. He'd left me some water in a dog's yellowed, long-used double dish. Aching and shaking, I walked over to the dish but was stopped by the leash. I was in a formerly spectacular 40 by 50-foot living dining room, floor-to-ceiling wraparound windows, views for miles, furniture and dirty white shag carpeting from another generation. A rich person, a woman by smell, had grown old here. I tested my radius. My 6-foot leash hung on a thick vinyl-coated hook screwed into the wall about 5 feet off of the ground. The leash was padlocked to a harness at my shoulders, where I'm about 18 inches tall. With my snout, I could reach anything in nearly a 6-foot semicircle centered on the hook. The water was just beyond my reach. The guy was stupid and or mean and or testing me. By swinging my butt around, I could have stepped in the dish and tried to walk it towards me, but that would show intelligence, so I didn't. Also beyond my reach were bar stools lined up at a tall kitchen counter that was perpendicular to the wall with the hook. I was 10 feet from a dining room table with 14 chairs. The table was stacked with an old person's junk, framed photos, awards, knickknacks, plus eBay boxes and Benadryl. The guy was selling off the old lady's celebrity memorabilia. The place smelled of cough syrup, diarrhea, sickness, maybe death. Mid-morning, the guy got up. As he walked into the room, I stood as close to the food water dish as my leash would allow. I pulled at the leash, wagging my tail like a dope. The guy pushed the water towards me and I drank. The guy was pushing 40, 6 feet tall, a soft, hairy 190, wearing just small, old red, I guess I'm a little colorblind, underwear. He had a comb forward and a shiny forehead. He smelled yeasty, like he didn't scrub in the shower. He unhooked the leash and walked me into the backyard, weeds and dirt around a once fancy, empty swimming pool with sparkly little tiles peeling away. I peed. The guy walked me back in and hung the leash back on the hook. He took my dish into the kitchen and brought it back with fresh water and a handful of stale kibble, which I gulped down, being careful to roll under my tongue a Benadryl pill hidden among the kibble. Then I lay down and licked my balls and asshole. Really went to town with the licking. The guy walked away. When my ass hair was good and wet, I tongued the pill into the hair right next to my butthole, where I could hide it under my tail and, I hoped, get rid of it when the guy took me outside. The Benadryl was supposed to make me calm and sleepy, so I lay down and pretended to sleep while considering my situation. I had been kidnapped. The guy I had known I would be at the Star Garden with Crystal. He had perhaps seen me on YouTube or TikTok, working a keyboard with a pencil held in my mouth. The guy's possible objectives included ransom, but Crystal wasn't rich. Some sex love thing. The guy looked and smelled like a sex loser, and Crystal's job involved being nice and showing her butt and boobs to sex losers, selling me for research, or to someone who wanted a dog who'd been on TikTok, breeding me, experimenting on me, but the guy didn't seem sciencey, companionship, but the guy didn't seem to like me, or some psycho killer animal torture thing. End of story time for this segment.
That was beautiful. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Very interesting.
So it's about a smart doggy in trouble.
Yeah, clearly.
How much is that dog in the movie?
Yeah, well, we'll see. All right, do we have Mark?
We still have Scott.
Scott. Got any more Canadian corner? Mark here. Okay.
Well, I had a question that was based on when I came back home. As y'all know, I live in an apartment complex and everything, and this is actually for Chantel, but I'm curious to see what Rick and Lance got to say about it as well and everything. Do you think that we're becoming suspicious or more suspicious as a people in general, Chantel? Because I'm going to tell you what happened. I came home and I live in an apartment complex, and there was a camper. And I was trying to figure out why the camper would be parked in a apartment complex. Because, you got people like ICE and other people that are always picking up folks. So I just wondered, do you think that we as a people are becoming more suspicious when there are suspicious activities in our neighborhoods?
Who's first? Who's the question directed to, Mark?
Chantel?
Her name is Channing.
Yeah.
Channing, I'm sorry.
Channing.
Channing, like Stockton Channing.
Yes. Or
Gotcha.
Carol Channing. Yeah.
Or Channing. Channing's my fault.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I mean, I think anybody that lives anywhere in this city, if there's suspicious activity going on outside of your house, you might feel a little worried or questionable or in danger. I don't know. That's a hard thing. I mean, to be paranoid that ICE is everywhere, I guess you would have to be maybe a foreigner or somebody that's not paperworked to be here. If your apartment complex has rules where you're not allowed to have an RV, I'd be suspicious of anybody in an RV outside of my home. But I'm also a female, and there's certain places you might want to be in, certain places you might feel unsafe. But one would hope that in your own complex you would always feel safe. So I mean, that's just.
So my wife and I keep adding security. Nothing, we're not spending thousands of bucks, but we bought a set of locking doorknobs for a lot of the rooms in our house, which you can get for like, I don't know, 10, 12 bucks a piece. So if somebody busts into our place and they run into a bunch of like most break-ins, they want to get in and out in 10 minutes, right? Or less. And if so, the more stuff you can throw in their way, the better your chances are they don't totally trash your house. So we're blocking doors. We have a burglar alarm with a siren. We doubled this. We added another siren, so now you got two. And when they both go off, they are brutal. They'll definitely like freak out and disorient somebody. So yeah, my wife and I are definitely more paranoid about stuff.
Hey, Lance, what about you? Because if I remember correctly, you live not that far from the ghetto neighborhood, or you have in the past and everything. So would you be suspicious of an RV? And by the way, I was born here in Durham, so this is a home area for me, but yeah, it did throw me off. But what about you, Lance?
Well, this is one of the most important questions of our time. It turns out that Trump was able to clean up crime in Washington, D.C. by about 50% in less than 2 months. And what this proves is that Democrat soft on crime policies have made all of our lives nightmarish. It turns out that had we been following Trump's tough on crime policies, the whole country would not be more suspicious than I've ever seen in my life. The city of LA is like an armed camp right now. During COVID, I went down to buy a gun, and I found that every single human being, black, white, old, young, that could get a gun was getting one. And that's because of the Democrat policies. They're releasing criminals, they're not locking them up, and they're doing everything they can to create more crime. So yes, Mark, we have every reason to be suspicious.
So I would rebut a lot
And
of.
it's no accident.
I would rebut a lot of that. Now, Lance says these statistics are false, but according to FBI statistics, major crimes are down by 50% since they peaked at the end of the first George Bush and into Bill Clinton. And then Bill Clinton tripled the number of people in prison. Right now, America, we have 1.9 million people in prison, more than any other country, including the mega countries of China and India. And so that probably dropped crime some. And another thing that dropped crime is the change in the culture. That it's hard to have street crime when there are fewer people on the street. Everybody lives inside and online, which means there are fewer people out to fall victim or to victimize. Fewer people carry cash. So crime has actually been at half the level it was in, say, 1992.
Hey Scott, what's your take on that? You're giving this from Canada. I did think about knocking on the RV's door, but when I checked outside, the RV had left. But then it might have been an FBI agent that wanted to go cart me off somewhere. But
two things come to mind. One, I remember Dr. Cornel West mentioning that in California, so the state of California compared to Canada, approximately same net population. The amount of murders in California just with stabbings was approximately equivalent to the ways in which Canadians kill each other in all ways. So it's a difference in relating to one another on that level.
So you're
Second
saying
thing,
it has a super high murder rate, basically.
it appears to, even if controlling for per capita. But another question about rises and falls in crime rates, even from sort of federal sources like the FBI, raises a critical question for me. Have the definitions of what constitute crimes changed sufficiently so that when they're cataloged per annum, they shift high and low per those definitions? Or if you were to control for those, are they rising and falling approximately in accordance with the argument you're making?
That's a huge issue because, like, the FBI changed the definition of rape to make it more inclusive, so it looked like the rape rate like skyrocketed a few years ago when they changed the definition. And it's time for JD, but I got to say, we've made it through 2 episodes tonight without yelling at each other, which is good.
It's very good.
I'm really proud of you guys. This is growth.
La 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 la, LA. La 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 la, LA. Amo, mujer, vende conmigo, mujer, a Los Ángeles. Malo, Mati, come with me now, come with me to LA. Porque nadie te quiere como yo, porque nadie te quiere igual. Because nobody loves you like I do, my love. Nobody loves you like me. Thanks so much. Thank you, Channing, for the percussion. Ooh, love it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. Let's get into it. Thank you, Rick. Rick, impressive introduction to your story, to your book. Congratulations. Can't wait to hear more. And Lance, right now we're going to feature the picture in the next episode. It's great intro, great start, Lance. Congratulations. And I'm JD. Hope you enjoyed the music. All original stuff. No copyright issues here. It's like I have permission to sing my own songs. So I give myself permission to sing my songs. So therefore, no issues. Something to that effect. Anyway, I'm being silly. Hey, stick around for the next episode number 3. We have Canadian Corner again, right, Rick? Yep.
Scott's still with us, yeah.
Fantastico. Anyway, stick around. Bam.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
The only trick you need to save time and money is to shop at Aldi. Aldi. Shop differently. Limitless length plus volume.
Sensational from every angle.
New Lash Sensational Sky High Mascara. Only
from Maybelline, New York.
Everything that touches your baby should be this comforting. Pamper Swaddlers. The #1 choice of hospitals is 2 times softer. All right, Trivago. Find me a hotel somewhere in Thailand where I can wake up with a view of the ocean. Awesome, the future.
It's impossible to see.
And when it's finally here, it might not be what you'd expect. It might just be better. Introducing Luxury Electric. Introducing Lucid Air. We're for those who love to discover, who don't need to travel to find something new, and who know when you spend less, you can discover even more at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. Smooth, velvety chocolate wrapped in precious gold. Ferrero Rocher.
Play different characters for our song whenever we used to have a like set people that did it, but now we're just asking the audience or friends to do it. So it's always like some kind of form of like theatrical entertainment, not just music.
30 seconds, pick up.
I really need you to look at your eyes.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just
Oh, that's fine. I'm resetting the time.
Oh, we're live. Oh my God, we're back. Sorry, we're just getting water. This is Make It at Night with Channing and Lance and Rick and JD and Mark and Scott. It's like when Stefan on SNL says we've got everything. Well, we frickin' have everything except the beagle lowered by a cable that the Kids in the Hall did in one skit. But if we can get a beagle for cheap, we will try to do that. So I want to talk about the two Jesuses. In my book, like hundreds of pages after this opening chapter, there is a doctrinal war. This is set in the near future, and there's a war between two ideas of Jesus, and one ends up being called Old Jesus. Old Jesus is the love everybody, and there's enough love to go around. Jesus, he's the guy with the long hair who's holding a lamb, right? He's the guy who plays soccer in his robe with your kids, right? You've seen that Jesus a lot. And then there's what will come to be called in the year 2035 or so, real Jesus. Now, real Jesus knows that life is a zero-sum game, that for some people to win, other people have to lose. And real Jesus, he doesn't have that weird long hair. He's got a buzz cut. He will not turn the other cheek. He'll punch somebody if he has to. And he's there to tell you that we have limited resources and you have to defend your own, your family, your country against people who want to take what you have. So what do we think about real Jesus, the guy who will punch you, and old Jesus, the guy who hugs a lamb? Lance, Channing, anybody?
Rick, will you sit on this side?
Well,
We're featuring the painting.
Okay.
I think every mature religious person realizes that life is at sometimes hell. And that doesn't mean that God is not loving. It just means that that's the condition of being three-dimensional. If you're three-dimensional, then you have needs. And so you're going to be given challenges. So I don't think there's a dichotomy between a loving God and a more realistic God. I think everybody knows that life can be rough, and that's the way it's set up. And I as I say, I don't blame God for that.
So Scott, which Jesus do you have up there in Canada? Oh, I don't know if we have.
Am I in? Oh, there it is. Yeah, hi.
Wait,
which
no,
Jesus do we have in Canada?
Do you have the Jesus who turns the other cheek, has long hair, like is glowy, holds lambs, has love for, meets everybody where they are, whether they're trans or he's got love for everyone, versus real Jesus, which is the Jesus that I picture in 2035 in my novel, which is kind of a Jesus who thinks there's not enough to go around, and he will fight for what is his people need at the expense of other people. So which Jesus is up there in Canada?
It's a mix. I mean, both and more. I mean, some people have sort of the white Jesus holding a lamb, and other people have Jesus coming down on clouds of glory with a flaming sword. It really depends. I mean, people will justify and have justified within their churches in Canada support for LGBT, having women as ordained ministers. The United Church of Canada would be a distinct example. Even Reverend Greta Foster, for example, in Ontario, she is, as far as I know, the only ordained minister in any Christian denomination in Canadian society that identifies as formally as a non-theist and then out as an atheist, has written books.
So you've got
and has
you've got a minister in a church who is out as somebody who doesn't believe in the God of her church.
She frames God differently, I guess, in the sense of not as an immediate intervening presence of some supernatural origin. And she did, and it was a long process of the UCC, the United Church of Canada, wanting to have her defrocked. She was not. She's still in her position, and that's so. Canada has quite a wide range. It's going to be sort of a Gaussian distribution of, a big middle of probably a lot of similar-ish to a lot of American Protestant Christianity. But at the same time, if you check the census in the 1970s, according to federal statistics, Canadian society was well over 90% self-identifying as Christian. 2001, it was probably around 3/4, maybe 77%, if I recall correctly. And then by 2021, the last census that came out, it was about 53.4, 54.3%. If you draw that line of best fit from the 1970 to the 2001, they were losing about 0.5% per year in accordance with the total population of Canada. There's some more nuanced calculations to do on that. And then from 2001 to 2021, it was about 1% per year. So the rate of decline had doubled in that second period of analysis that I did. And so if you draw that line of best fit forward, sometime late last year, potentially this year, Canadian society is officially, since its founding, since Confederation, less than half self-identifying as Christian. So the range might be very wide from bountiful BC and polygamy to an atheist LGBT supporting minister, woman minister, who is still ordained minister and not defrocked. But the total proportion of Christians is smaller, right? So the sort of fidelity of that Gaussian distribution will be a little bit different too. So yeah, you get all sorts in Canada as you do in the United States. I think in the United States, though, you have
Kimmel. One of the things you see in reporting on Kimmel is that they can't put him on until he lowers the temperature. It seems like Canada is a whole country that is at a lower temperature than the U.S.
There's a lot less political animosity. You could argue people in the United States are more divided over politics than over religion now.
Is it the waffles? You guys eat a lot of waffles. Does that calm people down?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure it helps.
Okay. All right. Next topic, which is the landmarks of growing up, getting married, having kids, buying a home or a condo.
Yeah.
All these are being pushed further into the future, or fewer people among millennials, Gen X. They're not doing it. Not even having sex. Like, sex is down among all demographics, but it's really down among Gen Z and millennials. That including, spanking it. That it turns out that those of us are the old guys here who grew up, learned that in the 70s. It turns out that it's actually maybe a skill that you develop. We thought it was just something that happened because Gen Z is not doing it.
You mean they're not masturbating?
Masturbation is down.
Do they have a census for this?
They do. They have surveys.
Maybe less people in the younger generations are not taking the census.
Well, that could be, but there's some evidence, some studies that.
I've never done the census. I don't know anybody my age,
I mean,
and I'm a millennial. technically.
So, well, in your experience, your peers, they're, I don't.
I mean, everybody I know is having sex and masturbating, but maybe there could be fear in the youth and they are not having as much sex or masturbating as much. But I don't think that that would be the case with humanity.
Well, I don't know. I think maybe they're distracted by being online so much, and
Maybe.
there's a thing called the Gen Z dead stare, which is the theory behind it is if you're a boomer, nobody likes a boomer, but if you're a boomer and you go into a store and you start yammering, asking questions, making comments to a Gen Zer behind the desk, they might just stare at you like you're a bug. They might not say anything to you. They'll just let you go on until you walk away. And the theory behind that is, according to some people, is they're so used to living online that they're not necessarily good at verbal interaction. Have you run into any of that?
I definitely have seen that in the younger generation where they're not as good as communication, or they have learned a method to just kind of more avoid it. So, and obviously I have my own opinions on that.
Also, some people blame COVID that the year or two that we spent kind of isolated maybe wrecked people's verbal skills.
I agree with that.
All right, I have to sneak
Can
over
we
to
have
the other
this one
side
more?
to see what our next topic might be. You got a topic, Lance, that won't lead to us screaming at each other?
Well, I'm kind of shocked right now. I didn't know girls masturbated. All right. So,
What kind of girls have y'all been hanging out with?
no, not that many. So, all right. So, I have answered this question before. I think that the problem is that the boys have low testosterone, and I think that women. So this is a theory I've been developing every show and every year of my life, and that is that women never really like men that much, and as they become more able to make their own living and able to be more independent, we're finding out that they're less likely to get interested in the man. And the less they need them, the less they seem to like them. So I think in the end, women like men for what men are good for to them, but I don't think they like men the way men like women. I think men truly desire women. Men are passionate about women. And I think we're finding out that it's not a two-way street.
So that there is a theory
I
that
disagree.
Okay.
But
Well,
there's many
please,
theories.
by all means. Go
I
ahead.
don't want to interrupt.
all right, sorry.
No, their opinion
all right,
is
but
important.
quickly, and then she can. That modern men might be kind of trash.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Whenever I bring this up, women say, well, men aren't good enough these days. That's a
Or
symptom
it's
of not.
generationally.
No, but that's a symptom of women not liking men. If there's not a man on earth that will say women aren't good enough for us these days. Every man will say, yeah, you're about as good as they've ever been. Better if you ask me.
In college, many years ago, my ex
Don't you see
stepsister.
that only a feminist would say, well, men aren't good enough?
Well, no, for a women's studies term paper, my ex stepsister wrote a paper that for many pages went on saying, yeah, guys are trash. They've trashed the world, but they're fun to bang sometimes. And that got her in so much trouble with her very feminist professor.
Exactly. The
But
rise
anyway.
of feminism has created tensions between the sexes that did not exist before, and that tension is diminishing the chances of guys having sex with ladies.
Channing?
I think this is a hilarious conversation to hear from gentlemen. You know, there's so many factors to this topic. Here you know, I'm almost 40 and I'm still single. I've been asked to be married a couple of times. I grew up, I think, in a very I'm from the South, and traditionally, you know, you get married and have kids. My parents pressured me with my second boyfriend ever that I dated 3 to 6 years to get married very fast. I mean, we were 19, 20, and they were like, when are y'all going to get married and have kids? And his family was traditional like that too. And we were the first generation that was like, we want to go to college. We want to go to school. We don't want to do what all of our parents have done and generationally has done. We weren't even sure what we wanted to be when we grew up. So how could we decide that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives with someone? But we were definitely fucking like rabbits. I mean, everybody I know does. I think less and less people are doing a traditional nuclear home. So, and I think census says that maybe less people are, you know, participating in those census because for me, like going out, being a social woman, being in my prime, you know, everywhere I go, people in Burning Man, clubs, EDM, all these different, you know, scenes, they're all definitely having sex and masturbating.
That's good.
I don't think people are doing less of that. I think maybe there are maybe the youth are being more careful because they don't want to have kids, because maybe they don't want to like have more abortions or more children. In today's world, it's so scary financially that to have a responsibility of a family or kids, that might keep people a little more cautiously like having less sex. But who's to say, you know, I mean, now there's more birth control that's pushed, big pharmacy. So maybe people are not having less sex, maybe they're just having less children, and there's not that happening anymore.
Well, it's good to know that people are still having orgasms.
But I meet a lot. I'll be honest with my sex life, and maybe it is a food or a diet or a thing that I do meet. I have come into a lot of scenarios where people are less sexually active. Maybe they're on antidepressants. Maybe they eat very extremely unhealthy. Maybe it's in the water. Who knows? Maybe these things could be making people less sexually aroused.
We hear there's a ton of stuff in the water. Plastic releases hormones. A lot of pills get flushed and they're hard to get out. But I mean, it's good people are still having orgasms because it's like one of the cheapest ways to get a burst of endorphins, and it's nice.
I mean, I study reproductive health in Chinese medicine, and lots of reproductive issues come to rise in male and female. I would say about 50-50. And I think it has everything to do with mental and trauma, but it also has everything to do with the food we eat, what we're putting in our bodies. There's a whole, it's hard to just say black and white on that topic.
Lance, is that how long we've gone in this segment?
No, I lost track.
Okay, all right. So JD, where are we at? Do we have time for story time, or is
we have time.
All right, let's go back to this story of this smart dog in trouble.
About 5 minutes.
All right, obviously there was a significant chance I would be harmed or killed. I had to escape. The guy was sitting on a long couch in the living room, tapping away on his laptop on a coffee table. He looked at some porn, masturbated, and fell asleep. Quietly, I tested the strength of the wall hook, biting the leash as high up as I could grab it, and hanging from the hook with my full body weight of not quite 40 pounds. The hook didn't bend. Standing on my hind legs, my head was about 2 feet below the hook. Given enough attempts, I might be able to jump up while biting and shaking the leash so that it randomly flailed off the hook, but not while the guy was enjoying a post-spank nap. I fell asleep and was awakened by the guy opening the refrigerator. He drank juice out of a carton. On his way back to the couch, he tossed me a scrap of sliced turkey from the deli pack he was holding. I fake groggily crawled over, ate it, and fake fell back asleep. The guy got on his cell phone, a shitty non-iPhone phone. He said, "I found your dog. I couldn't hear the other end of the convo. You're welcome." Yeah. He was walking down Lancashire by the car wash, walked right up to me. "No, I'll come to you. Where are you at?" "That's fine. I'll call you when I get close." "Okay, see you then." The call took less than 40 seconds. The shitty phone had a piece of tape on it with a 1 in Sharpie. Not good. I estimated maybe a 25% chance I would actually be returned to Crystal, but this was some creepy but not murderous way to make friends with her. Dogs are trash. We have no rights. We can be sold or tortured or slaughtered without consequence. Maybe I shouldn't have been wearing my name and Crystal's phone number on a bone-shaped tag on my collar that Mama Aweda had ordered for us. Maybe the guy had scoped it out as a Star Garden patron. Creeps were always fawning over me to try to seem like not creeps to Crystal. The 1 on the phone, if it really was a 1 and not a slash, was a slightly hopeful sign that Crystal and I wouldn't be immediately killed. Also that I was still alive, and that I smelled only a little deadness in the house. Lots of rancid fast food and unwashed clothing smells, but if a dead old lady was on the premises, she'd been well wrapped or deeply buried. The guy walked over and squatted in front of me. I stood up and wagged my tail. He looked into my eyes. "Don't do this. Most dogs don't like direct eye contact." And with both hands, scritched the sides of my face. With his thumbs, he pressed on the sides of my head. "There's that big brain," he said. "Weird," he said, with his thumbs. He pressed down on the very top of my head, which squished in. And that's how I found out I had a gaping hole in my skull. Instantly, I had a seizure. My visual field exploded into bright zigzags, making little half yips. I pissed myself and went into full body spasms. Just before I passed out, I heard the guy say, "Buddy, I found your off button." Now, time for Mark.
Mark.
Mark's coming in and everything. Actually, I got a quick question for Scott, so I'll bring Scott in really quickly, and then I got a question for the crew and everything. But Scott, we got everybody's sign but yours. So what is your astrological sign? Because I asked that question earlier, but we never got your astrological sign.
Sure. Leo cusp, July 23rd.
Okay, so he's a Leo. So we got a little bit of everything going on here and everything. As I was telling Rick when we started this show and everything, as many of y'all know, because sometimes I even record from there, even though it's more of the other shows that I record from there. I work at a cultural arts center, and we had a young lady that was showing a film earlier this evening, and it was about her. She's a well-known poet, Stacey Ann Chin, and everything. But it was about her getting reconnected to her estranged mother and everything, because her mother had given her away when she was young and everything like that. So I was just curious, and this is for everybody on the panel. I'm very close to my mother as well as my dad and everything. But for those that are listening that are maybe estranged from their parents, and I don't know what your generational connection is with your mom and dad and Shannon and everything. See, I remember the name and everything along those lines. But what advice would you give to folks that might be finding that they are estranged from their parents for whatever reasons?
Lance has an answer. Maybe I'll answer for him.
Well, you don't have to answer for me. I can
Well,
answer.
all right, we'll talk about your deal and with the I Ching and your mom.
Oh, yeah, that's right. When I was, I always got along really well with my parents, and I started to study Buddhism in my early 20s. And one of the insights I had early on was that my mother was a fool. And it is possible for your mother and father to be fools.
Didn't you toss the I Ching and it told you?
I do use spiritual guides like the I Ching and tarot cards, and they told me, you know, don't don't listen to her advice, and that was the best possible advice because I started to think about it and I realized my mother was always wrong. I mean, I don't want to speak poorly of the dead, but she was not someone whose advice should be taken. And I'm glad I got over it really young.
So my mom was smart in a lot of ways, but she dated in the 1950s, and she had a tiny waist, and she had pretty giant boobs at a time when people had those torpedo bras, and she wore tight sweaters, and she would give me dating advice. And you know, I was freaking pretty nerdy. I generally had one big zit going either on my nose or my forehead. And she'd tell me, just go up to girls and talk to them and you'll do fine. And I'm like, after a while, I realized that what worked for her in the 50s with big boobs, tiny waist, tight sweaters was not going to work for me with a giant zit that I generally covered up with her makeup.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was such a great point. I was at a party this week, and there was a woman. Well, a nice looking woman, very thin, but she had breasts like watermelons. And there were 50 guys that made a beeline toward her and all tried to hit on her. And this was just 1 hour and a half of her life. I mean, imagine what a lifetime like that would be like. I mean, it was shocking, and she actually, her job was to give colonic cleanses to somebody, to people by putting tubes up their asshole.
That's how you give them.
Yes, right. So you know. But the point is, not one single guy was deterred. It was like, hey, you know, my potential future wife gives colonics.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm down. No problem. No problem at all.
Well, they'd run into deterred later.
Yeah, they can run into that later. I'd love to hear Shannon's thoughts about her connection to her own parents and everything like that. But just really quickly, to your point, Lance, and everything, I do remember that there was a lawyer's ball. It's a black lawyer's ball. And I do remember seeing 3 generations that were trying to pick up the lawyers because they thought the lawyers would be the affluent man. So it was like 3 generations of lawyers as a grandmother, mother, and a daughter. They were all trying to do that whole picking up the lawyers because they thought that the lawyers were going to be affluent.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, there is no economic situation or anything that could happen in the future that would ever get men not to want women. But I'm telling you, as society is progressing, women's interest in men is getting lesser and lesser. I mean, they still enjoy us, according to Channing, but it's not the desperate desire to bag one of us or get married to one of us. That is a thing of the past.
I see we got the musician. Shannon, just really quickly, I've had some people that have told me that young women your age are actually attracted more to older men that are in their 60s and 70s because they're frustrated by the young men that are their age. So is that something you're hearing among your peer group or not among your peer group? Because I've had some friends of mine that are in their 30s and 40s, and they say that young men their age are frustrated now.
I mean, yes and no. I think my generation and generations before, we were all raised on like the Disney princess ideals, and we all usually come from a very traditional family unit, even though, you know, we're all very split families now. Like I come from a divorced family. I think less and less people believe in marriage, but we still have these ideas that society has kind of forced upon us, like the princess fairy tale wedding, or, you know, wanting to get married or wanting to share a life with a partner. So I don't think that men are less desired. I think that women are able to speak up about their opinions where maybe in the past we were not allowed. Maybe we were scared to rock or shake the boat in our family, in our traditional family customs, where now women more have a voice and an opinion, and maybe people are more vocal about how they feel on the topics. Because, I mean, back in the day, very traditional homestead, even if you hated your husband or you hated your significant other, you probably didn't really voice it or talk about it because of society and judgment and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that makes sense.
How about music?
JD.
Bow, bow, bow. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow, bow. Bow, bow, bow. Gato negro, yeah. Lloviendo mi canción, lágrimas del corazón. Lloviendo mi canción, lágrimas del corazón. Black cat, yeah. You're raining my song, tears of passion from the heart. You're raining my song, tears of passion from the heart. Estás siguiendo, you're following me, me estás siguiendo, gato. You follow me, me estás siguiendo, you're following me, gato. Negro. Bow, bow, bow. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow, bow. Bow, bow, bow. Gato Negro. Bam, thank you so much, guys. That was an original song, Black Cat, Gato Negro. So I hope you're enjoying the show so far. We have one more episode to go. Thank you, Shannon. You're doing a great job. Welcome to our program. Welcome to our show. Thank you for your brilliant insights and bringing that powerful feminine energy to this group, to the guys. Rick, man, your story's getting really interesting, brother. Love it. Congratulations, yeah. Lance, great job on the art. And Mark, your intriguing and inspiring questions always continue to rock us. So thank you very much. And the Canadian, very talented intellectual, bringing us some really cool juiciness to our podcast. Anyway, guys, stick around one more episode. I'm JD. Bam.
Mama, Papa, was your suitcase packed but not mine? How could you leave us kids behind? Parents are going on a cruise without us kids, and we know whose fault this is. Virgin Voyages says we can't cruise till we're 18, which makes us shake like we had caffeine. Virgin Voyages says no kids on the ocean, so we're causing a commotion. You'll but the fact we can't go is total bull.
If you're watching this with your friends, you'll probably make a joke.
Because you know what you feel on the inside
isn't what you want people to know.
If you have to pretend to be happy, find someone you trust and tell them.
If you get mad at things and you don't know why, or have thoughts about hurting yourself,
find someone you trust and tell them.
You are never alone when you share.
Seriously, people care about you.
It's okay to not understand what you're feeling.
And it's easy to think that you're all alone.
But you don't have to be.
You're never alone when you share.
Don't be ashamed to tell someone you trust what you're feeling.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Find someone you trust and tell them.
Tell a parent.
Tell a teacher. Tell a brother or sister.
Or just tell a friend.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Talk to someone.
Talk to someone.
It's how things get better.
Also, try not to lean too much because it changes the shadows of your face. So figure out what your general position has been, because I don't want to be adding shadows, erasing, and adding, erasing. Okay, and I mean, I can advise you, I'm trying not to yell over people.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like we've been working well with non-communication. And your signals and cues are always helpful.
Okay, here we go. Are we on? We on? Hello, it's Naked at Night with Channing and Lance and JD and Rick and Mark and Scott. Too many people to fill up a lifeboat. I mean, a lifeboat would, I don't know what the fuck I mean. All right. Topic. So, iPods. Oh, Lance, are you going to show off your progress?
Oh, okay. So here's the drawing. I don't know if you can see it without glare. There's not a hell of a lot to talk about. It's just a visual thing. I am, as you can see, drawing it from life. And right now I'm holding off on the blacks. I'm going to start adding black. I hold off on the darks until the very end, which is very prudent because it's hard to erase things if they're wrong, if you've already blackened them in. So as the night progresses, I'll start adding more and more black. And that's about it. The one thing I think is interesting about Channing is that she's able to maintain a slight smile. And one of the things we were told when we hired her was she was easygoing. And so to have a model that's easygoing and actually maintains a slight bemused expression is really terrific.
All right, so topic here is iPods. The new generation of iPods can now translate a foreign language in real time directly into your ear. So you can go to Spain without knowing Spanish. And you go up to people and talk to them well, I don't know. They're not going to understand. I don't know if they understand English, but They can speak Spanish right at you, and it'll turn into English in your ears. So I took at least 5 years of junior high and high school French, and I can't speak French. I might be able to still count to 10, and I think I can tell you to fuck off in French or to kiss my butt, but that's about it. It was a total freaking waste of time. And it seems like if we can just get translation done, why do we need to waste time trying and failing to learn foreign languages? And shouldn't that time in high school, wouldn't it be better spent teaching like financial literacy or civics or the arts? Anybody?
I'm glad I took a language in high school. I took the same language, Spanish, since I was in 4th grade. And I was a daycare teacher for 4 years, and we started teaching Spanish in Georgia. I mean, I think it's a very fluent language in lots of parts of the world. And we're teaching 3-year-olds to do Spanish in our curriculum. So, and a lot of people I know took multiple languages in high school and in college. So I think that is just much as important as any of those subjects or creativity.
Right.
It
So
helps the brain evolve faster. They say that if you teach a 3-year-old like 2 or 3 different languages, they're sponges. And I think it's like teaching someone music. You know, at that age, it helps their brain, I think, expand in a more intelligent way.
all right, let's talk about Georgia, where you're from. A couple weeks ago, a MAGA candidate for the House of Representatives in Georgia's 12th district called and sicked ICE on thousands of South Koreans who are helping build a giant Hyundai battery plant in Georgia. Now, Hyundai already employs 1,200 people in Georgia, and the plant, when it was up and running, was supposed to raise the number of Hyundai employees in Georgia, Americans, to 8,500. But ICE came in and grabbed all these South Korean engineers and locked them up in, you know, the degrading ICE way with arms shackled and crappy food, sleeping on the floor. And some of them had flaws in their work visas, but they were all there to work temporarily to set up this plant. So that has led to South Korea acting like it's going to pull out of a $350 billion employment and plant development deal with the U.S. So I think that this lady, this Lori Branham, who narked on the battery plant, I think somebody could beat her in the race for Congress. So I said to my wife, how would you feel about us moving to Georgia and I run against this lady? And, you know, I wasn't really serious, but she said, well, that makes me nervous because my wife worked in a college counseling office. And she said, you know, based on stuff I've heard about Emory University, they maybe don't treat Jewish people very well down in Georgia. And I'm like, come on, Georgia's very purple. And Jews, you know, we mostly get treated fine every place. So Jews in Georgia, how did Jews do in Georgia?
I mean, I grew up in Atlanta public city school systems, so there were people from all over the world. I had lots of Jewish friends, and I celebrated many bar mitzvahs, and I had a great time. My Jewish friends were really great. I had a teacher, Miss Kepler, in 6th grade. She was my homeroom teacher. She was Jewish. Her family was in the Holocaust. We in Atlanta public school systems are highly educated in cultural diversity. So I think you guys would be just fine.
So Atlanta sounds like one of the great fun cities of America, right? We saw the TV series Atlanta, and we hear a ton about it. How fun is Atlanta?
I think Atlanta has a lot of diversity, culture, the nightlife, the food is amazing, and people are very, very nice. It's the hospitality capital, for a reason. When I started traveling everywhere, I thought people would be as nice as we were, and I came to find out that people aren't as friendly sometimes where you go. But I think it being a major city on the map and one of the busiest airports, and I was one of the only natives there. It's mostly a transplant city for business, and people come there for all kinds of reasons. Of course, when I graduated high school was when Hollywood and a lot of tax things were passed for movie, arts, culture, and music. So it's a huge melting pot for lots of different things going on.
What you're referencing is that Georgia started offering really fat tax credits for productions who would shoot there. And LA kind of lagged behind, and only lately are we offering some nice tax credits. So yeah, you had a lot of production move to the city. Is Atlanta a car city or a public transit city?
We do have a bus system, a train system, all of that. I think a lot of people drive there. I know that after the Olympics, they tried to build more, and the 96 Olympics tried to build more transit, ways to get around. There's MARTA. So we do have the transits there, but I don't think the transits are as great as in some other cities.
Well, like New York City is a public transit city. It's ridiculous to try to have a car there. And I have a theory that people in public transit cities might have better social skills because you're always running up against a zillion other people on the sidewalk, in the subway. In LA, everybody's in a car, not talking to anybody, and maybe we are a little less friendly.
Yeah, Atlanta, look, I used to commute an hour and a half, 2 hours to work, every day living, outside of the city. And we have just as much traffic, if not worse. And I've heard that it's gotten worse. So it's probably more of a car city like LA is, unless you live in the city.
So is it more that Atlanta's a southern city and people are more polite than like LA?
I think you can find good, polite people everywhere you go. But I remember when I first went to New York, you're standing, looking like, a total transit port. Like, when you're looking like a tourist, people are rushing by you. And I was like, wow, nobody's saying excuse me or pardon me. Where, when I came to LA, it had its own, sense of rudeness. So I can't say that one place is more friendlier than another, but the hospitality, the friendliness, I think you find that in certain pockets, and especially where I come from, or that's what we're known from. And I could be a little biased, so.
Okay, I'm running out of topics.
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
So, I had a number of girlfriends that happened to be black. And the one thing I never wanted to do is go down south with them, because I didn't think that would go over very well. What do you think?
I'm from Atlanta. We are like, I would have to say that Atlanta's population, the city, is more, how do I politically say this properly? I was the second white girl to graduate from my 5th grade graduation. And I think that there's a huge population of African American and quote unquote Black
We were going.
there.
We were
So
going to
maybe
go
where
to
you were
small
going.
towns in the South.
I think that Georgia's known for being very diverse. There are pockets of, what you would call, a racist demographic, but I wouldn't say that anyone should live in fear about going to a place thinking that that's the case, because I think that places are more diverse than maybe what you've heard or what you've read, or to have that opinion is to live in fear.
Well, we had problems when we went to Black areas of LA. So
Well, it's
so
very
I-
divided here. I was so surprised in all of my travels how divided a lot of places are, like neighborhood, and like, you go to New York and people stay in their neighborhoods. Here, people kind of stay in their neighborhoods, where in Atlanta, it's such a melting pot. So I was really diversely confused when I started traveling and I saw how that was a real thing.
So, like, I worked in a bunch of bars many years ago, and like one of the bars I worked at was a gay bar that kind of got taken over by straight people because everybody in the town figured out they had the best DJs, the best dance floors. So if there's a club in Atlanta that is just kicking ass, will it just get invaded by people regardless of race, that everybody just goes there?
That's what I used to always share with people as growing up in Atlanta and going out. I always told people, like, the city glows purple, and no matter where you go, people are dancing, having fun. It's hot as Hades, but there might be, like, the heat is on and people have less clothes. But what I noticed is that it's such a diverse city and everyone is having fun and dancing. So when I came to LA and everybody's like this, and they're like kind of mean mugged, and I was like, why isn't everybody dancing? Why isn't everyone having fun? So I thought, like, wow, not everywhere's like where I come from, where I think it's a little more accepting of diversity and culture, where you'll go certain places and there is a division. And I had never experienced that in my youth because I grew up in Atlanta. But when I moved to a kind of more small, rural town in high school, that's the first time I saw division, clickiness, and that kind of clique of different people and kind of racism. It blew my mind.
I have a theory about LA, that LA is a work town, and I would guess in Atlanta, people stay out till 4 a.m. a lot of the time. But in LA, like, a lot of bars are pretty much dead after midnight because people have to get up and try to get cast and stuff and try to get work, be in grips or whatever. And also, like, beauty is maybe more of a commodity in LA. A bunch of people came out to LA trying to trade their talent, their attractiveness, that maybe people are more guarded because it's not just what they have for personal use, it's what they have for professional use, and it might make people more cautious.
I think that Atlanta has different laws. Like New York is the city that never sleeps. Their bars and their clubs stay open until 4 a.m. Atlanta was the same way because it was competing with the East Coast culture of nightlife, and the laws, I guess, are a little more laxed or different than West Coast. But, after COVID, all of that's changed. But when I came out here for the first time in 2013, I went out and, like, you get ready, you go out, you don't go out early, you kind of go out a little bit later. And I would go to, like, Sunset Boulevard and the Rainbow and, really cool places because I love music and I love rock and roll. And I would get to the Rainbow, have a drink. They had these free drink tickets, so you get your drink. And then I'm just now feeling the rock and roll, meeting all my friends, having fun. And then it was like 1:30 rolls around, it's last call. And I was like, what? I've only had one drink. So I remember being like, ugh, why is this place shut down at 1:32? Like, and I was 25. So I think at that time, it was like, what's going on here? But I wouldn't say that people are more responsible for work. We have just as many people that have to wake up earlier if you're on East Coast time. Or I don't know, like out here, everyone's kind of, from my experience, like people are on like surf time and beach time. There is business out here, but there's no city that does more business or cares more about their beauty than the other.
Okay.
Or maybe their health a little bit, but there's health conscious people where I come from too.
I think they tried to pass something that would let clubs, bars stay open till 4 here for the Olympics, but I don't know that it passed. 120 years ago, say.
The Canadian.
Okay, one more thing, and then we'll do Canadian, which is 100 years ago, this was a place where there were a bunch of health communities. People moved out here to live the healthy lifestyle, vegan, and all that stuff. And maybe some of that survived in the bars being forced to close early. Well, anyway, Canadian corner. Yes.
Hello. What was the question?
Scott?
We don't have a question. Say something Canadian.
A.
Thank you.
So am I saying the alphabet, or am I saying a Canadianism?
I don't know. You've got a book coming out. Can you talk about that for a second?
A few. So one I'm doing. Quick backdrop. So the format that I've taken with a lot of these has been conversational, yet they are evidence-based, expert level, long form. Okay. And the benchmark is about 100,000 words. They get you about 200 pages once formatted. So one I'm doing is on anti-Semitism, sort of on a broad spectrum on them, because there has been a rise by relevant metrics in it around the world. So I wanted to take sort of a look at that. And so I have, I think, 2 Holocaust survivors. I have the Southern Colorado Law Center, Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, and a bunch of other people giving some commentary. So I'm very happy for that. And at least the first forward has been submitted. Hoping to get a few more on that. That's one. Two.
How do people find your books?
So far, no complaints. I'll take it. The second one coming out is
no. What do they type into their frickin' computers?
What do they type into their computers?
If they want to read the book, where do they go?
They should go to Inside Publishing. There has been a prior set of about 10 years of work in drafting different formats on Amazon. This has been shifted to Apple Books with ISBNs from ISBN Canada. The whole thing has been revamped top to bottom for license, copyright, and everything else. So go to Apple Books, look for the Apple Book format of EPUBs, and you should find them there either under Scott Jacobson or Scott Douglas Jacobson when you search. Second one, go ahead.
You've interviewed literally thousands of people around the world, including you traveled to the Ukraine war twice. So yes. People should track down your interviews. You are maybe the world's #1 authority on via interview in various disciplines. So yes. Your name is Scott Jacobson ending with an E, Jacobsen.
Yes. That's correct. Another one I'm doing, we just released some press releases for it, having to do with clergy-related abuse in the Eastern Orthodox Church. In your neck of the woods in LA, up to 2024, the current paid out, not ongoing, but class actions paid out for sexual abuse by clergy is about $1.5 billion US just in Los Angeles. So after I got out of the military, I met up with some people, got an email after I wrote an article 7 years prior. And so now I'm on the board of one organization, maybe the president of another in Canada soon, both, I guess, public nonprofits of some form. dealing with clergy-related abuse. And so we've been Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew of the Eastern Orthodox Church is in New York. Is getting an award, Templeton Prize, for his environmental work. And the argument is,
So just to be clear, the Eastern Orthodox Church the same as the Russian Orthodox Church with the cross that has extra crossbars? Is that the same church we're talking about?
some of them. You can characterize it very straightforwardly this way. Catholic Church, more pyramidal and centralized authority, hierarchical. Eastern Orthodox Church, it has a hierarchy, but the Ecumenical Patriarch is considered first among equals. So there's a lot more self-governing sets of leadership within them.
So
and
what
those
you
leaders are called primates.
So the Catholic Church had its issues with sexual abuse. You're saying the Eastern Orthodox Church had its own issues in the same area, and you helped uncover some of that.
I've gotten the relevant experts, and other people have just released the first database in the world cataloging what is already public, what's legal filings, public news, and so on. So it's a little bit harder because they're called autocephalous or self-governing distributions, so like the Russian Orthodox or the Ukrainian Orthodox versus the American sort of Greek archdiocese, and they're distinct in different ways. But so I've interviewed a bunch of relevant experts. That book is coming out in October, ideally, with people who are survivors, people who have charities, people who are expert researchers in this. And it's a problem. I mean, there are innocent clergy who are being painted with the broad brush of the minority of clergy who commit these crimes. There are laity who are concerned about the integrity of the faith, and then there are others who are just advocates who are concerned about this problem in many domains. But this particular religious manifestation is one among many. Like Larry Nassar was a good case, not good, but a sort of a good example in the gymnastic world. There's been the Hollywood Me Too cases. There's a whole list of them running down.
So this is okay. So story time here. Now we're skipping from that to story time. When last we left the smart doggy in trouble, the bad guy had pressed on the top of his head and caused him to have a seizure and pass out. When I came to, I'd lost words, lost numbers, was aching and tender everywhere. Daylight hurt my eyes, but I could see that the sun had traveled 20 degrees across the sky. The guy wasn't there. My brain was outgrowing my skull. I was fucked in the short term from kidnapping and in the long term from my mutant biology. Ever wonder how chihuahuas have room in their tiny little heads for normal dog-sized brains? They don't. Lots of chihuahuas have permanent holes in their skulls. Also, chihuahuas are insane, probably from squashed brains. Despite the pain and wooziness and sizzling sparks in my incomplete skull, I went to work. I stood on my hind legs with my front paws braced on the wall under the hook. Holding the leash in my mouth, I tried to shake it loose from the hook 2 feet above my head. I tried jumping up while shaking the leash. No leash, no good. The hook curved almost a full 180 degrees. The leash was old and dirty. It would take hundreds of jumps and shakes to have even a 1% chance of unhooking the leash. My paws and the leash would scratch and dirty up the walls, and the guy would see what I'd been up to. And the leash shaking was fucking up my brain. I hallucinated Crystal in the living room, wrapped in shimmering polygons. I saw Russian Miracle Cow and Drone Bunny and Zendaya. My legs spasmed out from under me. Neon triangles and 50 old radio stations filled my head, and I was out. Early evening, the guy was nudging me with his foot. Hey, pal, don't die on me. I weakly whapped my tail on the carpet. He smelled like crystal and cum, in addition to his usual smells of Fruit Loops, pre-diabetes, and angry loser. He took me outside. I shit. Then I remembered the Benadryl stuck in my ass hairs. I chewed it off of my butt and let it fall into the grass. Back inside, the guy gave me some kibble. This time I ate the Benadryl, hoping it might soothe my twanging brain. Awakened to a 3/4 moon, a $10 million view across the San Fernando Valley, familiar buildings many miles away. My place in the world had been shifted by this creep, Words and numbers were back. I could do powers of 2 up to 8,388,608. I thought about octopuses and felt sorry for myself. Some of the smartest motherfuckers in the ocean, and they live for only 2 years. I might not even get that. End of story time. Mark? Or I'll
Yep.
keep reading. Here he is. All
I'm
right.
in here. I'm here. I've got questions for everybody. And I need to
Okay.
get Shannon and Lance back in the question because it's actually a non-intellectual question. It's actually a little bit lighter. It's basically actually on something that Shannon said earlier and Lance.
Okay, shoot. Here we are. Here's everybody.
All right, we got everybody back. Shannon, one of the things you said is that you're a rock and roll fan and all along those lines, and I am definitely a music fan, as Rick knows from some of my other shows and everything, whether it's Buddy Guy, Prince, or a number of other ones. And I'm also a sports fan, which I know these two guys are not sports fans, but I have different sports teams. My Milwaukee Brewers just clinched their playoffs and everything, so they'll be.
So did the Dodgers. I'm a Dodgers fan because I like teams that win. Nobody's won more than the Dodgers in the past 15 years.
And the
But
Brewers
go
are
ahead.
doing right well. They're close to 100 wins this year and everything like that. But then I became a Brewers fan when I went to college, was always a Minnesota Vikings fan, even though I've never lived in Minnesota and everything like that. So I was just wondering, do you have any sports teams that you follow, and who are some of your favorite musicians? And this is for everybody, but I'll start with Shannon.
Oh, yay. I mean, growing up in Atlanta, we have some cool sports too. I was always a Braves girl, still am. Of course, Falcons. You know, we went to the Super Bowl a couple of times, or at least we've tried to, like most teams. People claim that Atlanta's a fair weather team, and we are sometimes. I think there's a lot of diversity, but I lived in Colorado. I love a good Broncos game. I also loved going to that game and watching the Falcons beat them and wearing all my Falcons gear. I grew up in a big sports family. My parents, or my dad, and my brothers all played sports, and so it's a big influence. Music, I love music. I'm a musician. I have my own band. I have a very diverse music affluence. And yeah, Atlanta's got a great music scene. Some of my favorites. I mean, of course, I love rock. Huge Radiohead fan. But I love Motown. I love Al Green. I love R&B. I love jazz. There's a lot of beautiful stuff out there. It's hard to pick your top 5.
Oh, yeah, exactly. What's the name of your band before I get to Rick?
Oh, my band is called The Wild Childs. We're like gypsy cabaret. Very
You would have liked one of the bands that played at Centerfest. It's a band here in Durham called Teacup Gin. You can look them up online, but they are a gypsy cabaret band type as well.
Cool. I feel like I've heard of them, or maybe someone else told me about them recently.
They play around the East Coast, so they might have been down to Atlanta.
All right. So I grew up in Boulder, which is even higher than Denver, the Mile High City. And if I could be 12 years old again, I'd work on becoming a football kicker because balls travel farther, you know, when you're a mile high. And, you know, I could use, when it comes to music, my interest in music peaked with Prince because his stuff has a really definite thumpy beat. I guess I could go for club music. I need something with a really solid beat to tell me when to move, so I don't I don't look like an idiot when I'm dancing.
Hey, Lance, what about you? And by the way, I think you would have enjoyed one of the groups that performed because at the street festival I was at both today and yesterday because it was a tap dancing group. And I can see you tap dancing, Lance.
Thank you for saying that. No one's ever suggested that I could dance or be charming in any way. So thank you very much. Not a sports fan. As far as music goes, I guess David Bowie, Roxy Music. There's an artist named Bishop Briggs.
Well,
young
but you
artist,
managed
Lady
Echo and the
Gaga.
Buddy Man.
I was saving the best.
All
for
right,
last.
sorry, I interrupted.
And Echo and the Bunnymen, who were a major '80s British band.
Yep.
I hope that satisfies the question.
I mean, you weren't just a fan; you managed them. You got them, booked them dates.
I like to think of myself as a worshipful groupie.
Okay.
It's the funniest thing. The only time I allow myself to be completely disgraced is when my band comes to town. Echo and the Bunnymen really were a major band at one time. And the guitarist is a friend of mine, but we have an uncomfortable relationship because I've fawned all over him. I embarrassed myself. I have no dignity whatsoever. And I like it that way. That's the way it should be.
So you took me to a Bunnyman concert at the Music Box, I think, and it was. I don't like when bands have too many amps for the space, and it gets to be like 140 decibels, and it hurts my ears. And it was. I mean, the music was good, but it was too many. I worked in the first bar I worked in had like an 8-foot ceiling, and the bands would walk in with 5 tons of amps, and it was too much. And I just had to get my first hearing aid. I forgot to wear it tonight, but
I don't remember. They've had some pretty rough shows. I will say that. To be fair, not every show is a masterpiece.
I mean, there's something to be said when the bass vibrates your whole guts, but not after the age of 30.
Hey, by the way, before we get to the music and everything, hey, Scott, y'all have a very rich music scene as well because, like I said, I'm a blues fan, and I know that there is a lot of good blues musicians that are out of Canada. So are there any good musicians that you're big fans of? Because y'all have a very rich blues community. You're on mute.
Scott?
Oops. Would you consider Thelonious Monk as part of that repertoire?
He's
Not
more
Canadian.
jazz, but I would definitely consider him to be a bluesy jazz kind of person.
Okay. I mean, I'll go. I pulled up my Spotify. So some people that I've been listening to lately. Glenn Gould.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia Dean I really liked. There's one piece by a guy named Jeffrey Oryema named Passage at Dusk. Arif Sog is a Turkish artist. He may have cancer, and actually, according to a Turkish friend, might be dead soon. Blanco White is another. One or two pieces by Taylor Swift. Lizzie McAlpine, Alex Warden. One or two pieces by Tyla.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's South African. She's South African Black Indian mix, I guess, race artist. And then a lady named Dobet Nahore. I've liked a lot of her stuff actually quite a bit. Where's she coming from? Let me just double check for you.
So very eclectic taste. I think Sue Foley is from Canada, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, if it strikes me personally, then they're on the list. Basically, it could be a single song, it could be a series of them, but never an entire repertoire of an individual artist. I have not come across that at all.
Gotcha. Now it's time for JD, and JD, I know, got all kinds of musical tastes, including some of those Latin musicians that he's fans of, as well as some jazz and blues and rock and everything.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all types of music. It's interesting, as Scott knows, because Scott has been interviewing me for the last couple of years. I remember when my dad taught me my first guitar chord. That night, I wrote my first song, and I've kind of always been writing my own songs. And then I got into Tejano music, and I was one of the pioneers of Tejano music in the '80s. And because we invented Tejano music, there was no songs, so we wrote our own music. And so I kind of fell into that vortex of just always creating our own music and never really being I didn't listen to much music other than the stuff that we were playing. But then I did discover the Beatles, and the Beatles were a huge influence on me, and Billy Joel, and in terms of, because I play piano too, and as a piano player, Barry Manilow, Billy Joel. So those are my influences. And go ahead, Mark.
Before you get started and everything on your song on this last show on this particular group of episodes, have you ever heard of Garifano music? Because that's definitely some music that's very interesting. I think it's out of Honduras.
No, say that again.
I think it's pronounced Garifano, Garifuna.
No. I'll look for it though.
Yeah, do it.
All right. I sit alone in the night time of day. I sit alone in the daytime of play. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Amen. I sit alone as I wake in my dreams. I sit alone as I dream away. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Amen. Thank you. Original song name, Amen. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the 4 consecutive episodes. Thank you, Channing, for joining us. You're incredible.
And before you close out and everything like that, the people is Garifano, the music is Punta.
Oh, great. Thanks. Thanks, Brian. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you, our goddess guest, Channing, and she will be back, I'm sure, I hope. And Rick Rosner, thank you for that. What's the name of the book, Rick? Banjo. And Banjo was his name. It was. Right on. Thank you. And thank you, Lance, for great work. And I'm JD, all original music. And we'll see you guys for the next 4 episodes in a couple of weeks, Rick? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay, great. And all the other episodes we've done, they're on the website. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you. Bam. Thank you, Mark.
Recognize the excuses are not valid. They're conjured up, they're fabricated, they're lies. And how do you stop the lies? You stop the lies with the truth. And the truth is, you have time. You have the skill, you have the knowledge and the support and the willpower and the discipline to get it done.
The fruit of everything good in life begins with a challenge. Everything is uphill this required. And it's not going to come to you, and it's not going to fall in your lap, and it's not going to be something that, oh my God, it just was so simple. It's always going to be difficult.
If you want it, you gotta go get it.
This is your chance. This is your shot. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your
your time to get what you want. Go work that thing with Work That Thing supplements.
In our daily lives, we make many decisions. Life is made up of choices that may seem insignificant at the time, but add up and affect our lives in the biggest ways. Like the health of your heart. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women. Making the right choices can reduce your risk. Choose to see your doctor. Choose fresh, not fried. Choose to walk. Choose to live. Make the choice to beat heart disease at GoRedForWomen.org.